Natalie, then Lindsay, and then we'll have to move to the speakers to come back.
Yes, Nathalie Levallois from Le Parti de Gauche in France. Just to, I don't know, I arrived late, so I suppose you may have talked about it, but the extreme right is organizing at the European level very quickly. We can see in France a big rise in Islamophobia and extreme right actions in the streets with the anti-gay marriage demonstrations. And austerity as well is being organized internationally, I mean Europeanly, with the European Union, which is organizing it. So I don't know what we can do, but on all these levels, I don't know if there is a fight, you know, against the extreme right being, I mean, a campaign at the European level against Islamophobia and the rise of fascism in all these countries. But I think this is very necessary and has to be linked, as the person said, you know, with the fight against austerity. I'm sorry, I'm just saying maybe obvious things, and I don't have any solution of how to organize it, but I think we shouldn't forget that side of it.
Thanks very much. Lindsay?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of points. The first is about the unevenness, I think, across Europe, which I think we're all aware of, that there are different levels of attacks in different countries, and obviously the countries, particularly Greece, but also Spain and Portugal, have been the worst hit so far. And I think, therefore, one of the things that, you know, James said is very important is that we do show solidarity there, but we're also aware that these things are coming, if at a slower pace, to all the countries, and that therefore we need to organise on that basis. I think what was very important about yesterday was that it did include a very broad range of people at the People's Assembly, from very different movements, from the trade unions, from UK Uncut, from I thought there were a lot of people there from the Labour Party who certainly don't agree with the policies of the Labour leadership and so on, and I thought that was very, very encouraging. And I think the test is how we can bring all those people together to do the things that we can agree on, particularly in terms of fighting austerity, and that, I think, was a big step forward for us here in Britain yesterday. But I just also think that the international events obviously can have a disproportionate impact sometimes. And particularly, I think, the Turkish events recently. And the comrades from Daima, who, you know, anybody who knows Daima knows that actually the Turkish community and Kurdish communities are very political communities in Britain, perhaps one of the most political communities. And Daima obviously is part of that, and they've always participated in trade union activity, in anti-war activity, in all of those different things. And I think one of the ways we can begin to link this is to bring in these issues like Turkey, like Brazil, all the different things that people see on television, even if they're not absolutely clear about all the issues, they understand it's against government. There's a big feature in the Observer today about different squares in different parts of the world, and it includes Trafalgar Square and the anti-war protests and the student protests and so on. So I think it's a question of sometimes those international events, even if we don't have the same level of attacks, can actually lead to people using tactics and different ways of organising, which take the movement to a higher plane. And I think one of the things we have to do in Britain is to use the People's Assembly to build locally much stronger organisations against austerity in order to hit the government and to use the international links in order to make that stronger.
Thanks very much, Lindsay. Okay, so we'll return now to our speakers. Perhaps we'll do it in reverse order. So if our friend from Spain would like to, will you do a simultaneous consecutive translation or what?
I prefer that he speak better English.
Okay. So.
Cuando llegamos a una situación de agonía y de catástrofe social como esta,
when we arrive in a situation of agony and social catastrophe as the one we live in,
hay que ir al fondo de la cuestión
we have to go to the deep of the question we're faced with
y afirmar que no hay manera humana
and to state that there's no possible way
para tener trabajo,
to have jobs,
vivienda,
housing,
educación, sanidad,
education, health,
un futuro,
a future,
si seguimos pagando una deuda que no es nuestra,
if we continue to pay a debt that is not ours,
o si seguimos permaneciendo en una Unión Europea cuya precondición para el Estado español, para entrar en la Unión Europea, era reventar el empleo y la industria de todo el país.
or if we continue in an European Union who, for Spain, entry condition in it was to destroy its whole industrial and park.
No hay salida para los trabajadores europeos y para los pueblos europeos que no pase por dejar de pagar esa deuda ilegítima y romper con la UE para crear una Europa de los trabajadores y los pueblos.
So there is no way out of this crisis, for instance, for Spain, that doesn't go through leaving the European Union and stopping to pay this debt, which is attacking the workers and destroying their lives.
Porque cuando llegan estos momentos,
When we get to those moments,
llega la hora de que los trabajadores tomen el destino en sus manos
it's a time workers take their destiny in their own hands
y comiencen a cambiar las reglas del juego.
and start changing the rules of the games.
Y cambiar las reglas del juego significa,
And to change the rules of the game, that means,
como he dicho antes, dejar de pagar esa deuda,
as I said before,
romper con el euro,
rupture with the euro, stop paying this debt,
romper con la UE.
get out of the European Union.
Y para conseguir eso,
And to get this done,
es necesario que los trabajadores del sur, con los del norte, con Alemania, Francia, Inglaterra,
to get this, we need that workers from the south of Europe come together with the workers from Spain, from England, Germany, France.
continuemos con la movilización que empezamos el día 24 de noviembre, la huelga europea,
And these workers should come together and continue the mobilization we started on the 24th with the European General Strike.
que como las burocracias de comisiones obreras y UGT en España,
And which, like the bureaucracies of Comisiones Obreras and UGT in Spain,
no tienen una política y no quieren darle continuidad.
they have no policy for defending this and they don't want to bring this forward and continue it.
Pero es una necesidad cada día que pasa
But it's a need and becomes greater every day.
buscar la unidad en las luchas de todos los pueblos, de todos los trabajadores, contra la UE y contra la deuda ilegítima.
It becomes ever more a necessity to bring the unity of all peoples and workers against the debt and against the European Union. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Josh?
Thank you, Kate. I always forget to press this. Thank you, Kate. I think the first question was, is the anti-Islam movement portrayal in the UK media true? I probably need to make a few points about that. Now, the current AKP government has Islamic roots. It identifies itself as being an Islamic party. There's no doubt about that. But it's important to realise that it is divisional in its policies. It separates against the Sunnis and the Alevis in Turkey. It says awful things about the Alevi community. It hasn't protected the rights of the Alevi community in Turkey. It probably provokes it in so many ways. And I think the conference here need to realise that it's not this Islamic party that is trying to defend those Islamic communities who suffered in the past. It's actually forcing another community to be religious, and if someone isn't religious, if it describes himself or herself as atheist, as another part, as representative of a community, it attacks it. And that's what we probably need to realise first of all. And they play the religious cards not to lose its support. It has a majority support, and there's no doubt, we can't hide from that. It is the case. But we've also realised that we've got a really a majority of support at the moment, because these groups have united against the AKP government. Now, the mainstream media in the UK plays the old cards. It's very simple to just say this is against the seculars via the Islamic community, because the mainstream media aren't creative. They represent one section. We can find various reasons why this is the case. But I think we've been lucky this time round, where we've got so many supporters in the BBC, or who work in the BBC in London, who are probably somewhat who are members of DIMA. So that's kind of helped our cause in some ways. But however, this is far from true. I genuinely believe that this is not about secular, the Islamic community. There's a Muslims Against Capitalism group in the Taksim Square. You've probably never heard of that from the mainstream media, but that's the case. The mosques helped the injured people who took part in the resistance, and they basically got sheltered in the mosque in Turkey. The imams there have been really helpful. They've used all their resources to care for those people who have taken part in the resistance, who've basically been shot at by the police. Obviously, this infuriated the Turkish Prime Minister, and he came up with all sorts of stories about how the groups came into the mosque with their shoes, they drank alcohol, they took the turbans off the women's, and it's all lies. Even though the Imam himself said this hasn't been the case. And I don't know whether he's still part of it. He's still in authority in that particular mosque. But it's typical of the Turkish government to do that. But it's also very typical for the mainstream foreign news to just portray this as Islamic versus secular. And I can assure you that this isn't the case. And we've seen various groups of people with turbans on the streets who've come out, who've spoken. There's so many YouTube clips which I urge you to look at, and they're all against well, I'm not saying all against, but there's so much momentum within that community that the Prime Minister is worried that he's going to lose his majority of the supporter base. I'll go on to the next question about why have people united. Actually, I live in Cambridge as well, so I've occasionally tried to attend those demonstrations, but for some reason I've always come to London. I guess it's more exciting in London. But this unification of various different backgrounds has been really helpful for me, because I'm actually from a Kurdish background. I'm an Alevi, so I'm not a Sunni. I'm from an Alevi background. I don't speak Kurdish. I speak Turkish. I live in England. I've got a British passport, and I support a Turkish team which has been, for the last 2 weeks, attacked by the Prime Minister because of their support in the Taksim resistance, and that's called the Beşiktaş Football Club. So this whole unification really has helped me, because it means that I've been able to bring all sorts of parts in my background together. Now, why have they united? I think they have beaten that fear, because the Turkish government, the Turkish state, have always kind of put fear into the people, threatened to torture them, to put them in prison. And when you look at the history of Turkey, there's so much issues in the sense that police brutality, loads of people have been vanished, who've been put into prison, who've been tortured. So you can understand that fear, but now people have beaten that fear. And I think the involvement of the young people has been very, very helpful. And what's good is that they've realised that it's them against us. They've really seen that the state is no longer in favour of them. They're not out on. Back in the days in Turkey, you would always see people who go out on the street, especially from these Turkish national groups, to provoke a coup. But this time, it's not been the case. People don't want a coup. People want a resistance where they can make a change, where they now believe in their power, and they want to make sure that their demands are met. And I think people have made every effort not to be broken as a force, which happens very often in Turkey. They've really tried to put their differences behind them. I've seen so many great pictures, like I've seen a Kurdish flag or a Turkish flag, which you don't see that in, very often in Turkey, even though there's so much contradictions in itself. But I think it's really good that it brings those groups together. It's very strange that the nationalist groups in Turkey, who you could probably say are very similar to BNP in Turkey, who chant slogans against fascism, which is incredible. But I guess it's something very progressive. But I think overall, what's united to them is that all sections of the community have got together. The young people have been very creative in their efforts. They've really made every effort not to kind of turn this into a kind of violence, vandalism. They really tried to stay together, support each other, and as one of the a friend on the floor has said, people have been really supporting each other, and you can feel that solidarity within the people. And I think that's what made this last as long as it has. Thank you.
Finally, Yanis.
Dear friends and comrades, thank you very much for your solidarity, for your interest, and for your very interesting questions. In order to answer in the most proper way, please permit me to answer in Greek, and Yorgos will translate in English in order that you understand better what I want to say. Η ουσία της κρίσης του χρέους είναι ταξική. Ταξικές αιτίες, ταξικός τρόπος λύσης υπέρ του κεφαλαίου, ταξική πρέπει να είναι και η απάντηση.
The real substance of the crisis. Sorry, yeah. Excellent. Yeah. The real substance of the crisis is a substance of class interest. So we know that our opponent has a way to deal it in favor of the capital. We have a way to deal it in favor of the working class and its allies. So our answer will be deep-rooted into the class struggle. We know this, and we know that this is the real substance of the capitalist crisis that we live, which has the form of a debt crisis now.
Μπορεί να εκδηλώνεται η κρίση με διαφορετικούς τρόπους και ταχύτητες, αλλά ο πυρήνας είναι ίδιος.
This crisis could develop in different countries with different speed and forms, but we know that the core is the same.
Άρα, από κινήματα υπεράσπισης της δημοκρατίας μέχρι κινήματα ανυπακοής, συνδικαλιστικών διεκδικήσεων ή πολιτικής ανατροπής, πρέπει πάντα να βλέπουμε το στοιχείο της αλληλεγγύης και της ανταλλαγής εμπειριών.
From the movements which try to defend democracy, from the movements of political disobedience, from the trade union movement, and for all the fights of for dignity and democracy, we have to see the element of solidarity. We have to see the different experiences of those movements, of those people that are taking part into them.
Οι κινητοποίησεις στην Τουρκία, τις οποίες παρακολουθήσαμε με αλληλεγγύη και αντιπροσωπεία μας βρέθηκε στην πλατεία Ταξίμ, είναι πηγή εμπειρίας και για μας.
So the movement in Taksim, the movement in Gezi Square is a very valuable source of experience for us, and we were there. We sent a delegation to the movement, and we are in solidarity with our Turkish comrades and brothers and sisters.
Η άλλη απάντηση, το δεύτερο ερώτημα, το σύντροφο.
For the second question of the comrade there.
Ο ΣΥΡΙΖΑ έχει να επιτελέσει δύο σοβαρά καθήκοντα ταυτόχρονα.
We have to accomplish two complex and interlaced tasks on the same time.
Να οικοδομήσουμε το ενιαίο κόμμα με στόχο την ανατροπή και την κυβέρνηση της αριστεράς, να ενισχύσουμε τις οργανώσεις, τα κινήματα για να πέσει η κυβέρνηση και να έχουμε εκλογές.
We are trying now to build a united party of the left, a strong party which tries to support the movements, which tries to support the class struggle, so that we could overthrow the government and we should force the government to proceed to elections.
Το κίνημα έριξε κυβερνήσεις, άλλαξε συσχετισμούς δύναμης και οδήγησε και στην προχθεσινή κρίση με την αποχώρηση της Δημάρ.
The movement is the critical factor that changed the balance of powers, led the government to its crisis, and led the party of the democratic left to leave the government. So in a way, it's a kind of our victory.
Έχουμε την πεποίθηση πως αν επιβάλλουμε εκλογές θα τις κερδίσουμε.
We believe that if we could force elections in such a way, we will win the elections.
Δεν φτάνει όμως αυτό. Χρειαζόμαστε το κίνημα να στηρίζει, να διεκδικεί, να κριτικάρει, να πιέζει την κυβέρνηση της αριστεράς.
We know that this is not enough. We need a government of the left, but we also need a movement which should support or even criticize or even fight alongside against the government of the left, because we need the power of the people so that we can support their fights. We need the people active in order to have a successful government of the left.
Χρειαζόμαστε επίσης την ενότητα όλης της αριστεράς.
We also need a united front of the left, of all the left.
Δεν έχουμε όμως την πολυτέλεια να περιμένουμε.
But we cannot wait.
Θα προχωρήσουμε.
Now.
Θα προχωρήσουμε. Ξέρουμε πως η Ευρώπη και ο κόσμος παρακολουθεί και αγωνιά.
We know that our fight is a matter of urgency for all Europe and for the Greek people, so we will proceed. We know that all the eyes of the Europe, of the movements of the left, are on Greece and on our fight.
Ξέρουμε επίσης ότι οι άρχουσες τάξεις αγωνιούν για τον κίνδυνο που αντιπροσωπεύει ο ΣΥΡΙΖΑ και η κυβέρνηση της αριστεράς.
And we also know that the dominant class and the dominant powers are all across Europe. They fear us and they fear Syriza and they fear the possibility of a government of the left in Greece.
Ξέρουμε επίσης ότι οι εργαζόμενοι ελπίζουν στο ΣΥΡΙΖΑ και την ελπίδα που φέρνει να αλλάξουν όλα τα πράγματα στην Ελλάδα και στην Ευρώπη.
But we know that we are not alone. People who live from their work all across Europe, they believe in Syriza. We think that we represent a hope for them and the realistic possibility that Syriza will become the core of a government of the left will change everything. All the social and economic matters is now something that is more close than ever.
Θέλουμε να τα αλλάξουμε όλα και ξέρουμε ότι για να τα αλλάξουμε χρειαζόμαστε την αλληλεγγύη όλων των λαών της Ευρώπης και ότι όλοι οι λαοί της Ευρώπης ελπίζουν στο παράδειγμά μας για να αλλάξουν και αυτοί την κατάσταση στις χώρες τους.
We want to create a new example a new paradigm for all the peoples of Europe, and we know that in order to be successful we will fight in solidarity, and we hope that we could change everything.
Thank you.
So thanks very much indeed to all our speakers. We'll have further opportunity to develop these themes and discussions in the next two sessions. So we have an extended, i.e. half an hour lunch break, so please be back in here ready to start at 1:55. Thank you very much.